Eva, thank you.
Oh, wait, you forgot.
Thank you, Eva Kolach. Something struck me when I was sitting there, and it actually really reminds me of Trevor's Diversity and Unity poem, is that it's so beautiful, aside from the fact that we have such a diverse community in the 905. Eva's art is an example of abstract art and surrealism when it comes to painting and poetry. And then we have poets such as Trevor or Dave, or sometimes myself, who are more, fall in the realist category. And then we have people like Ronnie O'Byrne who fall into the satirist quality. So give it up for our next featurette artist, Ronnie O'Byrne, who is the director of the Canadian faction of the Robbie Burns Foundation. And for those of you who don't know who Robbie Burns is, he will fill you in.
Yeah, we'll tell you. We just make this up as we go along. A couple of things I'd like to start with. First of all, although we were actually taught English, this is not our first language either, And the Scots, there was the discussion earlier about, how the Italians invented Canada, how the Scots invented Canada, how the French invented Canada. We've never been that restricted. If you actually go back to the first book in the series, it was how the Scots invented the modern world. We're not small thinkers, we're big thinkers, Listen, I can read a couple of things or recite a couple of things from the magazine, which I think is absolutely fantastic. But I always like to play with what I hear, when someone says something. So, how the Scots invented the modern world. There's a little bit of friction goes on between Scotland and England, and I worked for an Israeli company. And over the years I had, they also have frictions in their life. So one of the years we went back and forward and we're going over for seminars and training, and the South African guys would turn up with some South African brandy, Finnish guys would turn up with Finnish vodka, I would take a nice bottle of single malt whiskey, the Americans would turn up with some Tennessee rye, the English guy would turn up with Tetley tea, we drank our way around the world. And one of the evenings, as we were having a discussion, the conversation went, who contributed to literature, and engineering, the sciences, and poetry, and roads with tar macadam, and of course, here's me representing Scotland, and my Jewish friend, Giddy Drury, as we were walking, I was sort of staggering back to the hotel. He said, Ronnie, I'm very confused. I says, where's it getting? He says, I thought the Jews were the chosen nation, not the Scots. So it got me thinking, so this is a little poem about us Scots, and think of the friction called the chosen nation. As Moses searched in arid plains for signs to lead his nation, Enoch the Lord did visit him with news of his creation. He spoke of places near and far, of seas and thick plantations, of creeds and tribes with foreign tongues and men of every station. As God explained his 6 days' work and what he had achieved, he told them of a special land that would in time be praised. He made it with a colder clime, built mountains, lochs and streams. The people there were called the Scots. Their likes had ne'er been seen. This race would make fine contributions, invent the greatest things, TV sets and chloroform and telephones that ring, penicillin, a game of golf and roads with tar macadam, write books for kids called Peter Pan and toast an Ayrshire ploughman. The rivers, they'll be full of fish, trout and spawn and salmon. They'll make a drink with barley corn and sell it by the gallon. Their glens will have a heather view, their songs will stir your blood. This canny race will venture far and engineer the world. Moses was quite taken back to hear the Lord's confession. He thought the Jews were first in line to be the chosen nation. He asked the Lord to justify why Scots deserve such favour. The Lord just laughed and said to him, you ought to see their neighbour. things that I absolutely love about travelling the world, doing burns, and I lived in Ireland for 5 years too. That tradition of recitation, the oral transfer of stories and poetry and prose and heroes, and that tradition's alive and well. You know, back in Scotland, Bobby can talk about today we have schools competitions teaching the kids about burns and recitation and poetry and singing, and I think it's a fabulous thing. So part of the love that we have about Burns is also the recitation of his poems. So I know Bobby's going to do a Burns poem. I never like to get in front of a microphone and not do something about Burns. So I just make it up as I go along. I have a feeling for it. And so Bobby's going to do something of Burns, and so is Karen, but I'd like to give you a little bit of Burns. And it's a fabulous piece. Burns was ploughing the field one day, November 1789. And as he's ploughing the field, he disturbs a little mouse's nest. And it's the humanity of the man. The Burns looks at his life with all the despair and hardship, and he relates himself to the hardship of the mouse. And of course, John Steinbeck took this imagery and made of Mice and Men that play in the poem that Steinbeck wrote. So this is Burns' poem, To a Mouse. There's a little bit in the middle of it that says, a dame a knicker in a thrave. Now, a dame a knicker is a single sheaf of corn. The wee mouse is stealing the corn. So he says, a dame a knicker in a thrave. And what that means is a single sheaf of corn from a group of 25. You know, so when you hear that, just to give you an idea, that he's sort of saying, like, the mouse is coming and stealing a wee bit. You know, I'll let it go. You know, so that, just in case you... I think that's the only really difficult bit. The rest of it you'll get. We sleekit, coor and timorous beastie. Oh, what a panic's in thy breastie. Thou needna start a war sae hasty wi' bicker and brattle. I would be laith to run and chase thee wi' murder and pattle. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union, and justifies that ill opinion that makes thee startle at me, thy poor earth-born companion and fellow mortal. I do no whiles but thou me thieve, while hen poor beastie, thou man live. A dame a knicker and a thieve's a small request. I'll get my blessing with a lave and never miss it. Thy wee bit hussy, to and ruin, its silly was the winds are strewn, and naething new to bring a new in a foggish green, and bleak December's winds ensuing, baith snelled and keen. Thou saw the fields lay bare and waste, and weary winter coming fast, and cosy there beneath the blast thou thought to dwell, till crash the cruel coulter passed out through thy cell. Thy wee bit heap of leaves and stibble has cost thee mony's a weary nibble. Now thou's turned out for all thy trouble but house and hall, to thaw the weary winter trouble in Cranrach called. But missy, thou art no thy lane, improving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men gan after glag, and leave us naught but grief and pain for promised joy. Still, thou art blessed compared with me. The presence only touches thee, but ocht I backward cast my e'e on prospects drear, and forward, though I cannae see, I guess and fear. And this is for the delightful Ivy, because she says to me, if you're going to come along, you have to finish with this poem. So again, this isn't in the book. This is just something else I made up. And when you go to Burns suppers, part of the tradition of a Burns supper is that we have a toast to the lasses. We actually take the mickey out for a wee while. We sort of play with female foibles, but we always end up on a conciliatory note, sort of praising the majesty of women. And that's part of the thing. And so, when I go along, I like to play wee things too with poetry. And this is actually an old Scottish joke that I turned into a poem, and it's a poem called That's Nice. Ladies, when you any department store in the world, Holton Renfrew, Jenner's is the big store in Edinburgh, and this is what the poem's about. When you walk in, What the spinning door, you know, we call it the rindle door. The first department that you come to is always?
The lingerie.
No. Perfumery, all around the world. So in Edinburgh, there are these ladies, Morningside ladies. They dress with big power suits and they're always boasting about. So this lady's married to Roland, and she's telling this other lady all the marvellous thing that Roland's doing for her. And the other lady is married to Callum, and there's this conversation takes place, and I'm sort of following them as they're going through the department store. That's nice. As I approached the rindle door, it spun with constant speed. The stench of joy in Saint Laurent came wafting by my heat. Inside in their uniforms were these snooty-looking lassies. Their blackened eyes and red rose lips were worn with vain disguises. I ventured by the bookie smells and past the tester samples, an older dear with crinkled neck rum cream into her wrinkles. How madam sat and stretched the skin in patty perspiration. The sales assistant spun some yarn about pH dispersion. I then was just about to step, but manners held my tact. I let twa ladies lead the way as I came at the back. It's on the 3rd, I heard her say. I come here twice a week. My Roland says it's only right to keep yourself in shape. Her accent voice was loud and brash to match her colour suit. The other lass said little back. She seemed a wee bit out. The only words that crossed her lips were coated with a smile, responding to the boastful charm that Roland had beguiled. Next week we're going on a cruise from Palma down to Crete. It's been 10 years since our first kiss and I need a little treat. 14 days with first class berth, some sun and gin and ice, caviar and champagne lunch. Her friend responds, that's nice. Next week we're married 7 years and Roland's just announced that he's ordered me a Beamer as a little runaround. The latest style in red and black. I dare not ask the price. A gift of love, my Roland says. Her friend responds, that's nice. Before you go, I must ensure you meet this jeweller fella. He made a ring for Elspeth Muir and one for Lady Mellor. My Roland likes to play wee games to see if I'm enticed. He asked me if I'd like a brooch. Her friend responds, that's nice. Yeah, you figure. So listen, dear, and tell me this. Do you have any news? Has Callum purchased anything to keep you tastes amused? Any little secret gift to gain your warm affection? Any little guilty treat to hide an indiscretion? The quiet friend just answered no. Simple, clear and plain. But Mrs. Show-Off dug her nails and chewed at her again. So nothing done to show his love. No thing this whole long year. No gift of gold or trinket toy to show how much he cares. Once again she answered no, but then her thoughts confide that Callum had enrolled them both in a course for groom and bride. It taught us ladies how to speak, to be tactful and polite. He thought it might be helpful when we go out of a night. How very quaint and thoughtful was the smart Show-Off smug reply. And tell me, dear, has this expense been duly justified? Oh yes, indeed. It's been worthwhile. I've oft been quite surprised. Before I would have said fuck off, but now I say that's nice. Everyone, it's been a fantastic night. Thank you very much, Ivy. Thanks for the opportunity.
That was good.
Ronnie O'Byrne. I wonder if when they asked him, could you be part of the Canadian faction of the Robert Burns Foundation, maybe he just said, that's nice. I doubt it, but this is why he's there. Let us take a short intermission for about less than 10. But before we do, I just want to say, we have one artist in the crowd. She's purely a visual artist. And her name is Rita Plampe. She initially hails from Latvia, and she is one of my favorite people. You will all see her spread. I took actually over 100 photos of her art, and this is just some of it. It's gorgeous. She's right over there, and she comes all the way in from Toronto as well. Do take a few minutes to have a washroom break, grab one last drink because we'll wrap up. We have about 5 people left: Kim Kaye, Lindsay Albert, and of course we're going to kick off with Bobby of the president of the World Federation, and a short piece from Frank. Take some time, get your first copy signed, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes, and then we'll do the raffle prizes at the very end, and they are worthwhile. Thank you.
Oh.